Very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Molweni. Dumalan. Good afternoon. Goeiemiddag. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Shalom. And of course, from Eldos, awe massacres. It is so fantastic to be here today. I must just tell you one thing. I spent Saturday morning with Zama Zizi about 10 days ago. I have never been put through my paces like that before. So I say, and will you join me, one day, Zama Zizi for president. Ladies and gentlemen, the community of Kliptown, fellow South Africans, thank you for joining us here today at this historic national heritage site. 69 years ago, in 1955, 3,000 members of the Congress of the People gathered here to draft the Freedom Charter, the document that became the blueprint for a free South Africa. This pivotal document articulated the aspirations and demands of the liberation movement and presented a vision of a South Africa based on equality, democracy, and human rights. It became a foundational document to the struggle against apartheid, and later it influenced South Africa's widely celebrated constitution post-1994. Now, it's really special for me to be here today because our family moved to Eldorado Park from Rivoli, and we have called this place home for almost 50 years. In the months leading up to me taking up a scholarship to go and study in the US, I volunteered as a maths teacher at Kliptown High School. I taught maths there. I remember the Kliptown post office just up the road here. You won't recognize it today. It was a major community hub. It was a meeting place. Despite the Group Areas Act, it was a meeting place for the people of Pimville and Eldorado Park and the greater Kliptown area. This historic space has a very deep personal resonance for me. It also represents the roots of our movement. To what degree have changes in the country over the past 3 decades lived up to the ideals of the Freedom Charter? Now let's look at the facts. 20 million people in South Africa, 20 million, are on a spectrum of serious food vulnerability. They require daily assistance. I don't have to tell the people of Kliptown this. We see this in the long queues outside the center. More than 30% of South African children under the age of 5 are stunted due to malnutrition. You know, our parents always say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. The other day I was in a conversation with activists involved in food security issues, and one of the activists got up and said, people say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. She said, I say, show me your height at the age of 2 years, and I'll show you your future. Our children are stunted. 75 people are murdered per day in our beloved country. That is more than 27,000 people murdered in 2023. And I want you to remember the number 27,000, because you'll be forgiven for thinking that these figures are reports from a major conflict zone, from a major war zone, and you would not be far off. Let me give you an example. In the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the average daily death rate in the civilian population since the start of that conflict is 15. An estimated 14.6 million people in that region require humanitarian support and assistance, of which 4 million are children. This is 1/5 of the number of people murdered in South Africa. 1/5. and around 70% of the number of people murdered in South Africa who in truth require some form of humanitarian assistance. Now, in recent history, there are only two major conflicts that exceed the number of civilians killed per day in South Africa. In recent history, there's only two conflicts: the war in Israel and Palestine and the war in Syria between 2014 and 2019. The total number of murders in South Africa, and it will become very clear why I'm making this example of war and conflict. The total number of wars in South Africa is almost 3 times more than the total number of civilians killed in Russia and Ukraine conflict, and it exceeds the estimated number of civilians killed in Gaza. We just need to look around and see. We are a country that is at war with itself, and this is the true state of the nation. Last Friday, we held a meeting with community activists here in Kliptown, various community leaders from Kliptown and Soweto and Eldorado Park. We heard your concerns. They echo what we have heard from people and communities across South Africa and through our research. You told us about the harm that load shedding has caused. When a member of parliament says load shedding isn't a big thing, I say, go to the guy in Soweto who runs a little shop and his meat goes rotten after 4 days, and he doesn't have the money to replace that meat that he's selling to the community to feed his family. It's a cost to families and to businesses. You told us about the need for efficient transport, especially the trains. The Pimville station has been gone for years. One woman in the meeting last week told us about the fear of having to walk to a taxi rank in the dark to get to work early. And we heard of the fear, especially of women and children, who need to feel safe all hours of the day. You told us about the need for more support for small businesses and entrepreneurs. We were told that crime is rife and local. And we were told that you can't always trust the police. You told us about hunger. You told us about food safety and security, issues that hurt this community, decent housing, access to land, quality education. We came because we wanted to hear what the community was feeling and experiencing before launching this manifesto today. You also reminded us that with freedom comes responsibility and the importance of individuals being engaged in advancing communities' interests. You reminded us that we cannot invest and build monuments in communities where nothing works and it is just not sustainable to do so. So we are here today, and I am here today to say, we hear you, we see you. This is a community like so many around the country that grapples with high unemployment, inadequate housing, insufficient access to basic services, such as clean water, electricity, and sanitation, and limited educational and healthcare facilities. One community member from Eldorado Park told us that the absence of a healthcare facility, a hospital in emergencies in the surrounding area, is a real problem. We also spoke about the high crime rates, which inhibits the development and well-being of residents. This complex interplay of history, social and economic factors continue to impact Kliptown's revitalization. It is not just Kliptown, it mirrors the broader issues of urban poverty, inequality, and a lack of dignity in South Africa today. The issues at hand are not new, but the urgency, that's why we say change starts now. The issues at hand are not new, but the urgency with which we must address them have never been greater. And so we are saying in this manifesto that we need a wartime strategy to turn things around. We need a government leadership that is honest and truthful, and also visionary and capable. Our nation is struggling to achieve meaningful growth and inclusion. For over a decade, real incomes have declined. We face an unemployment and violence crisis that is unprecedented in the world for any country. Not only is our economy at a standstill, it is going backward, losing capabilities, export diversity, and competitiveness. The rule of law, where we are all held accountable, has been rendered irrelevant. Crime, an ever-present shadow over our nation, takes a toll, and it costs us 10% of our GDP annually. This is not just a matter of economics. It is not just a matter of whether businesses do well or not. It's a matter of human dignity. It is a matter of safety. Urban crime, high and ever rising alongside theft and sabotage. It has crippled our national infrastructure. You know, we talk about infrastructure like it's some fancy thing. We all marched from the square to the Kliptown Youth Center here today. We saw exactly what it means to have failing infrastructure. And we chose that route because we need to constantly be aware of the way our people are forced to live. On Friday, I went to the communal taps just across the road here to talk to some of the residents. Where is the dignity that was promised to our people over this past 30 years? Our public services are weakened and our people's safety is compromised. Gender-based violence is pervasive. It reflects broader societal challenges, and they extend beyond the people directly affected. We've heard earlier today that women shoulder a disproportionate care burden in our society. Women care for children, the elderly, the disabled, and it's a glaring example of the inadequacies in our social security and support system. Our state capacity, this is our government we are talking about, has seen a collapse across numerous functions. The deterioration of critical network industries. Here we're talking about electricity, transport, security, water, sanitation. And especially over the past 15 years, it has been shocking. I am here today because I feel angry about this. It does not have to be this way. And this collapse is not only about policy failures. It's about leadership, and it's about government. You know, when we talk about disaster, we talk about hurricanes, floods, earthquakes. This is a man-made disaster. And today we say to our current political leaders, it is time to stop lying to the people of South Africa. Stop pretending that what you are doing is anything less than accelerating us on this road to disaster. Our urgent, bold action can reverse these fortunes. We are not here to be part of complaining and to speak very generally about what needs to happen. We are here to offer solutions. You know, at the end of the Second World War, Europe was devastated. By channeling $13 billion into the war-ravaged region, they came up with something called the Marshall Plan. It catalyzed economic revival. It created a spirit of cooperation that laid the groundwork for unity. And it became a timeless reminder of humanity's capacity to rebuild and to progress. That $13 billion back then is equal to $150 billion today, or 2.8 trillion rand. The social conditions of this country are extreme, and we need new management to get us out of this mess. I've mentioned earlier, 20 million people are hungry. 30% of our children are malnourished. We cannot go on like this, and we cannot talk about the government and about policy and where we are without talking specifically about how we deal with these issues. We face an unprecedented level of inequality and an overdependence on government. And this is undermining the way we feel about democracy. It is harming our stability. It is stunting our growth. And we must look and see and talk about the social problems in our society. Because we can't fix one side, business, and not talk about the social issues. But how do we get there? From a government point of view, if we look at the finances, our economy is dealing with two very important things, two important and significant challenges. We have income growth that is too low, and so because we have such low income, we cannot service or continue to sustainably service socio-economic and service delivery requirements. So what happens? Budgets are cut. There are 800 doctors sitting at home, and we can't see a doctor in a public hospital on time. The other day I was in Soweto talking to someone on a SASSA grant. And again, I don't have to tell you this. This man is on a SASSA grant. He needs to have it renewed every 6 months. He wakes up at 4 a.m. every morning when it's time for his renewal. They only see 80 patients per day. It takes him over 5 days to see a doctor. And he tells me that there are other people who are even more sick than he is sitting in that queue. Where is the dignity in that for our people? We have to restore the dignity of our people. We have a government with a balance sheet, with all of the assets, that is buckling. There is debt because of mismanagement, and it's not sustainable. The debt that the government is incurring is being left to the people of this country to service. We need an urgent plan to address the situation. We do not need more of the same. We don't need slogans. We don't need all of the theater. We just need a management plan to get South Africa out of this mess. And so what do we need? We need a Marshall Plan for South Africa. We need to rebuild, and we need to progress through social solidarity. And what is social solidarity? The rich in this country must make common cause with the poor in this country. The rich in this country cannot stand aside while we see this poverty. And so as we stand on the precipice of change, we are called to reimagine our nation's path forward. We have to reimagine where we are going from here. This change charter, which we are calling a manifesto of hope, is a declaration which can forge a new destiny for South Africa. It is one defined by prosperity, justice, and unity. It is one defined by independence and self-reliance. Our charter is a bold 1.5 trillion rand vision for the reconstruction and restoration of South Africa's economic and social prospects. It's a plan heavily focused on healing our social divisions and on investments in infrastructure. Through these initiatives, we know that we can create up to 5 million new jobs, and we can reduce unemployment by 37%. Over the course of the coming weeks and months, we will continue to talk to all stakeholders, experts, and the wider public to refine this charter and to plot a new course for our country. We invite engagement, debate, and input on the charter and its core proposals. Now, at the core of this charter and the core of this vision is a thriving economy that benefits all South Africans. We understand that the prosperity of our nation depends on the well-being and the productivity of our people. That's why we are committed to investing in our people, in education, skills development, and healthcare. We want to lay a groundwork for a robust workforce, ready to lead us into the future, laying the groundwork for a self-resilient population and economy. We want to catalyze this transformation. We all know about SOEs, Transnet, Eskom. We know the way they have been mismanaged. We want to make them more efficient, with the potential to unlock. We believe we can fix those SOEs, and when we fix them, we can raise up to R1 trillion in finance that we can put into all the things that our people need: jobs, and so forth. You know, in 2012, the government published something called a National Development Plan, and in that plan, they said if we invest in infrastructure as a percentage of GDP, by 2030, we can get unemployment down to 10%. It is 2024. That investment is sitting at 14.5%. Nothing has literally happened. We've looked at it. We've brought in the experts. We've modeled this thing. And we think in the next 5 years, we can raise that 14.5% to 22%. And in so doing, we can bring down unemployment by 37%. We are looking at the detail. South Africa needs new management. But we will go even further. We will create in this manifesto of hope, because you see, South Africans are hopeful. We see all these terrible things around us, but we know that there are better days ahead. We will create a reconstruction and growth fund. It is a bold initiative, and I call on South Africans to support this initiative. This is where finding common cause between the rich and the poor gives true expression to what we mean when we say we need social solidarity. We will launch a regrow fund, which is a bold 500 billion rand initiative to mobilize our collective resources for large-scale infrastructure, technology, green energy, and small businesses. This fund is not just an investment in our economy, but in our collective future. It aims to create jobs and to stimulate sustainable growth. We will raise this 500 billion. You see, this is a conversation that South Africa has avoided for too long. And our society is literally on its knees, and we cannot avoid this conversation anymore. Today we say, let's reach out and hold each other's hands, rich and poor. We will raise this 500 billion rand through a range of one-off tax measures. This will include a wealth tax of 1.5% each year for 3 years for everyone who has assets of more than 40 million rand, a 1.5% wealth tax. We will ask businesses to increase a tax of 4.2% for 3 years. We'll ask individuals who earn more than 1.8 million rand a year a 4.5% increase for 3 years, and a 1% charge on retirement funds for 3 years. This would be temporary. It's a reconstruction and development tax. It is a one-off. And the reason why this is something that has to be done is because at the current rate, South Africa will continue to run out of money and will not be able to afford all of the social assistance that is guaranteed in the Constitution for our people. At the current rate, taxes will increase over the long run. This is a short-term levy. This proposal is based on a precedent of well-grounded crisis measures that have been used and applied throughout modern history. In fact, it is one of the oldest fiscal instruments used to address a national crisis. These contributions would be ring-fenced. Now, this is the important part. You speak to any taxpayer, they are very unhappy with the way taxes are being used in this country. Very unhappy. And so this fund will be ring-fenced. You need an act of parliament, a law, so that the fund can be managed separately. Our intention is to put together a group of respected South Africans, chaired by a respected South African, so that the people contributing to this 500 billion rand can see exactly what this money is going to be used for. It will be overseen by a panel representing the finest example of public-private partnerships, and will be distinguished for its technical and financial skill, headed by an independent chair with extreme integrity. We call this fund the Regrow Fund. It will be managed with extreme levels of transparency to restore and rebuild public trust in government. In short, this temporary 3-year fund will make it plain for you to see where your money will go. The Charter highlights the importance of a functional and resilient infrastructure system as a foundation for economic development. Infrastructure is the backbone of a thriving economy. By investing in ports, let me just stop at ports for a minute. We're all watching the news every day. You will have seen that ships are no longer going through the Suez Canal. They're coming around Cape Town. We cannot service those ships. Our ports are a mess. We cannot provide jobs, we cannot make revenue for this country because our ports are a mess. In a survey of 370 ports, our major ports rank number 376 and 378. A country like Djibouti that has an economy of less than 1% the size of South Africa is ranked number 26. Our ports are a shambles, like everything else. We will invest in ports, rail, water and sanitation, and digital communications. The Charter aims to improve the quality of life for South Africans and create a multitude of jobs in construction, maintenance, and the operation of these infrastructure projects. Through these initiatives, we also need to include local South African companies and South African entrepreneurs to restore our capacity and capability for economic self-reliance. And so you see, this Charter focuses on the detail of how to get us out of where we find ourselves. This Charter is about putting South Africa under new management so that we can improve the lives of our people. It acknowledges the critical role of reliable and sustainable power supply. The Charter proposes a comprehensive plan to rebuild the electricity system. How many times, and I've asked this question around the country, how many times have we heard that load shedding is about to be ended? How many times have we been told, give us a few more days, 12 months, 18 months? Everyone who knows what's happening will tell you, load shedding is with us for the next 3 or 4 years. Let's be honest. Our politicians have to be honest. The way we're going to fix load shedding is through serious management interventions. We need to improve rooftop solar. We need to make sure that our power stations work. We need a transmission grid. We need more private power suppliers. There's a whole list of things that needs to happen for load shedding to end in the next 3 years or so. And once load shedding is ended, our economy will grow from the 1% or so where it is today to 2.5%. And with that will come jobs. And the reason why this is, I'm not telling you anything new. Everyone knows this has to happen. There is no desire and no will to do what needs to be done. We need to unlock and undo the political gridlock that hampers current reform efforts. We need to transition to green growth. Everybody knows we're talking about the harm that's been done to our environment. And we need to capitalize on South Africa's advantage in terms of the minerals that we have to contribute towards decarbonizing the world and addressing environmental concerns. This includes the following: promoting renewable energy resources, which would also create jobs in manufacturing, installation, and the maintenance of renewable energy infrastructure. The Charter stresses the importance of micro-enterprise support as a means to stimulate job creation. We spoke to 9,000 South Africans across the board, rural and urban, and we asked, tell us what concerns you the most. I don't have to tell you this, and I always say this to colleagues in business. You don't need to read economic reports. Visit Kliptown, visit Aldos, visit Soweto, visit any township on a weekday. You will see the impact of unemployment in this country. A weekday looks like a weekend. And so this Charter focuses on how we can create jobs, decent jobs, with dignity for our people. By providing infrastructure, training support, and enabling financing for entrepreneurs, especially in special economic zones, the Charter aims to develop an ecosystem where small businesses can thrive and generate employment. We also recognize the importance of the private sector as a partner in progress. And through regulatory reforms, public-private partnerships, and incentives, we will cultivate an environment where industries critical to our diversification and competitiveness can flourish. Now, we all talk about crime and justice all the time. It's a big topic. We covered this on Friday. Our commitment to justice extends beyond the courtroom and into the very fabric of our society. It means dismantling the legacy of inequality that has long shadowed our nation. It means building a South Africa where every citizen, regardless of background, has equal access to opportunities. Our plan for land reform is guided by a principle of fairness and the need to heal historical wounds, ensuring that it contributes to sustainable economic development, food security, and cohesion. Everyone says we need to solve crime. Have you heard a detailed plan on how we solve crime? Our plan for crime and policing is simple, and it is rooted in common sense. Crime is local. Crime happens in our communities. We need to use partnerships effectively and to assess results independently. As an urgent priority, we need to restore confidence and public trust. We need to increase efficiency and rebuild law enforcement capacity and capabilities. Here's a very important proposal in this charter. We need to devolve and decentralize community-level policing. Wouldn't it be nice if your local policeman felt accountable to you, not somebody in Pretoria? Wouldn't it be nice if you knew his name or her name? Wouldn't it be nice if they actually felt they needed to listen to what's happening on the ground? And so we must make crime a more local issue. And we need to rebuild trust and ensure that we have the best people and that we measure against international best practice. Here's another problem with our criminal justice system. Our prosecutors can prosecute criminals on their own, but when they need to administer justice, when they need to travel, when they need administrative costs, they need to go to a public official. We must make sure that our national prosecuting authority is truly independent, both in terms of prosecutions and in terms of administration. Transparency, accountability. Thank you. Transparency, accountability, and efficiency are the hallmarks of good governance. Our charter introduces policies to strengthen government institutions and service delivery. We will combat corruption head-on and implement stringent laws and mechanisms, including whistleblower protection, to uphold our integrity of our judiciary and the public services. We've heard earlier, and I think Bob reminded us, that the strength of South Africa lies in our diversity. Change Starts Now envisions a country where this diversity is celebrated and where everyone's voice is heard. Our people are tired of not being seen. Our policy aims to bridge the divides. You see, I am personally convinced that there are more of us South Africans who want to work together than there are those who want to divide us. And so our policies must bridge divides, not just in terms of race or ethnicity, but also urban and rural divides. We advocate for improved infrastructure and services in rural areas. Prince Patwane, you have landed your message, and we are so happy that you are with us today. And we want to ensure that all South Africans are part of the journey towards this progress. Education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. This is what Nelson Mandela once told us. It is the cornerstone of development. It is the bridge towards self-reliance and the independence of our people. Our charter commits to overhauling our education system, ensuring comprehensive reforms that enhance the quality of education from early childhood to tertiary levels. You know, we have 11 million children in this country under the age of 9, and about 5.2 million under the age of 4. Yet only 1.6 million of those children are in early childhood development. We will emphasize science, technology, engineering and math subjects, vocational training, and digital literacy to prepare our youth for the world of work today in the 21st century, and to ensure that all South Africans have access to education that is relevant and empowering. The COVID-19 pandemic underscored the importance of healthcare. Change Starts Now commits to a healthcare system that is accessible, affordable, and of high quality for all South Africans. We know that 90% of our people go to a public hospital for healthcare. Where is the dignity in sitting in a corridor and waiting for hours to be seen by a doctor? We have to fix our public hospitals. This means we strengthen our public healthcare system, we promote preventative care, and we integrate mental health care services. Our vision is a South Africa where healthcare is a right. When you go to a public hospital, no one is doing you a favor. Healthcare is a right, it's not a privilege, and we can do better in providing healthcare to the people of this country. By investing in public health facilities and adopting technology, we aim to improve service delivery and ensure that every citizen receives the care that they need. Our policies will be inclusive. It will address the needs of the entire population, including gender-based initiatives and rural development, to bridge historical inequalities. At the heart of our charter is a new era of leadership, ethical, accountable, and transparent. Change Starts Now stands for a government that serves the people. It stands for a government that sees you, where corruption is met with zero tolerance, and where public officials are held to the highest standards of integrity. We are committed to restoring faith in our institutions and ensuring that they work for the benefit of all South Africans. We will make anti-corruption measures a central defining feature of government, enhancing the role played by the Public Service Commission in the appointment of senior civil servants, ending procurement, related corruption, and implementing fully all the recommendations of the Zondo Commission. How many villages do we know of, Mutse and many others, where money has been allocated and spent on water projects, and still there is no water today? Our vision for South Africa is inclusive. This charter is a commitment to the future, one where South Africa stands as a beacon of hope, as a beacon of prosperity, as a beacon of inclusivity and resilience. Together, we can overcome the challenge that faces us and to build the nation that we feel we deserve. And so I stand with you today. Thank you. And so I stand before you today. I stand before you today with a deep sense of purpose and a commitment to something new. A South Africa that builds. A South Africa that brings hope, solidarity, and progress. You know, earlier this year, 250 people who are dollar billionaires and millionaires, they themselves signed a letter. They signed a letter to public representatives asking for higher taxes on the rich. This call was inspired by a view that economic exclusion and a lack of social mobility is resulting in the decline of support for democracy. Now, what's the state here in South Africa? A 2022 survey by Afrobarometer shows that 70% of us, 70% of South Africans are saying that we are not very satisfied with democracy, or that we are not satisfied with democracy at all. We are part of this global trend, and it can only be reversed by an increase in social solidarity. It is common cause that the provision of public goods and services is a strong anti-poverty measure. And it is common cause that the rejuvenation of failing business infrastructure is a condition for economic growth. And that is why we say the rich must make common cause with the poor. Our democracy is at stake. We must change our politics in order to change our country. When we say change our politics, we mean end corruption so that load shedding ends. We mean end tenders for friends so that when water and other services have to be provided, contracts go to people who know what they are doing. We aim to stop the disease. We must aim to stop the disease that has plagued our nation and steer South Africa towards a future. We must steer South Africa towards a future where the unemployed can find jobs and dignity through work, where the poor can escape their circumstances, where young people can envision a prosperous future, where investors are drawn to our nation and our exports are valued all over the world, where our firms expand, creating jobs. We say in our manifesto for hope, South Africa needs a turnaround plan. And all turnaround plans require these three elements. We need the political will and the resolve. We need the ability to mobilize financial resources on a massive scale. And the will and the best human talent available. And we must do all of this with ethical values and a sense of mission. And then we need some imagination and we need some inspiration. And so I urge all South Africans to join us and take the clearly signposted change lane, the highway to the South Africa of our dreams, the South Africa that we want, the South Africa that we deserve. As fellow citizens who believe in the potential of South Africa and its people, I invite everyone to walk this course with us, and let's be the change we want to see. Let's join the initiative to make South Africa a better country. Let's work for change in our communities. Help change starts now to persuade other South Africans to choose a better future. We urge all South Africans who care about our future, go to our website, www.changestartsnow.org. Sign up for change. Register to vote. Vote for the South Africa that you deserve. Together, let's build a South Africa with stability. Let's build a South Africa with a growing economy. Let's build a South Africa with peace and safety. Let's build a South Africa which is a country for all. Thank you very much. Change starts now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Mr. Roger Jardine. So we've reached the end of our program.